that was a hell of a game, hell of a weekend. We're going to talk about it, digest it, but also talk about a very exciting championship weekend. You'll be shocked to find out that Eric here is very excited about the game that he just witnessed. We'll get his reaction. This is going to be a great podcast. Let's rock. Probably safe to say, I challenged you on this for a second, which was the game of the year. I think it's safe to say it's probably the game of the year. Were there there were more touchdowns scored in the last 3 minutes of that
under
game
had a chance to hit in that game.
Than every other game, the whole weekend. It was all the quarterbacking kind of sucked. And then Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes just put on two of the greatest performances we've ever seen in the playoffs.
I'm obviously happy because, the team, both of us. I'm happy for you too. But
right, that's why you're happy.
But the thing,
what does your shirt say?
I think I got my swagger back.
What is that about?
I think it was a Mahomes quote during a press conference or something that I bought. It came with my Creed is good shirt. But I have to say this, Josh Allen was freaking amazing in that game too.
I thought you were going to apologize to Chiefs Kingdom, but I'm glad we're not at that point yet. Yeah, that might be maybe the biggest take of this game, which is that Josh Allen was amazing. Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis was the receiver that he went to, and he was cooking dudes all over the place.
Yeah.
The Tyrann Mathieu injury should not be forgotten in this game. But man, Josh Allen is good. He is really, 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 really good. And the way that he creates things, there were so many plays where you're he's dead to rights.
Dude, the number, so I don't know if you were watching the live watch along, but I was just it was that 4th and 13 and they went to timeout and I'm okay, you have to rush the passer discipline. You can't, the Chiefs would get out of their lanes or Josh Allen, it's not even about the Chiefs. Josh Allen would maneuver and get out in space. And you're just this freaking thing is over. Remember that 4th down where Melvin Ingram had him dead to rights? He's just this, and then he escapes, and then he outruns Frank. He outran Frank Clark to the first down 3 times in the game. And we were during the game we were talking about does under make sense, all this kind of, and the game goes to 77 point or 78 points now. It seems stupid.
The live 47 and a half.
Yeah, live 47 and a half
was nice.
The freezing takes exposed for that number.
Mahomes gets us back on the lock of the week with over 2.5 passing.
Well, that's what I said on that. I was by the way, the best part about this overtime is over 2.5 is live.
Live, baby. And the Chiefs ended up covering. Is there a takeaway from this if you're the Bills around?
No.
Winning what do you have to do to win these games? Or is it just simply, if you leave more than 1 second on the clock, you're going to lose?
Yeah, this – what did Buffalo do? I think back to other championship games where the up-and-coming team lost. And again, I think about this Kansas City when they lost to New England in the championship game 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. This was the divisional, but yeah.
Yeah. But this was kind of the AFC Championship game. Don't we agree that this is
kind
of de facto?
Already writing them off.
But the But when they lost to the Patriots, it's don't get down 17-0 at half. Mm-hmm. The Bills, we talked about when you were on the show, both teams kind of took punches in the first half. It was 14-14 going into halftime. Both teams probably came out of halftime thinking, we sparred for the first 30 minutes of the game. And they essentially turned it into a home run hitting contest for the last 6 minutes of the game. That's basically all it was.
Haymaker after haymaker.
And that's kind of how you want it to be. And is there anything for the Bills to learn from this? Maybe just don't punt on 4th and 1. Remember they punted on 4th and 1 back to Mahomes.
And there was that fourth. They had a 3rd and 2 where they
ran a pitch.
They ran a pitch, lost 2, and then didn't go forward on 4th and 4.
Chiefs also punted on their fair share. They also did the Blake Bell. When they tried to, they normally do the thing where Blake Bell sneaks on 3rd and 1 because they're afraid of Mahomes because he had that knee injury the one time, And then they had Blake Bell run the option instead. And it's like, you don't want your second string tight end running an option play.
I think there is one rather big takeaway if you're the Bills, which is you got to make someone other than Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce beat you.
Yeah.
And we've seen teams do that to the Chiefs. Now, one of the things coming into this game that I thought was really interesting from a data standpoint was the Bills, and I know they're without Tre'Davious White, but they have been the best secondary all year. They have the highest coverage grade of any team in the NFL. They have 2 tremendous safeties. And you just have to – there are 2 guys on that team, and when they needed yards, right, Tyreek Hill goes all the way, right? Travis Kelce just takes inside leverage, cooks a dude, and they're kicking a field goal to tie the game.
Yeah.
Like, you got to make McCole Hardman do that.
And he did in the last
I'm
drive.
making him do that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm making him do that more than once.
Isn't that just the style of play that both of these teams play, right? Both the Chiefs and the Bills play. They're not good enough, especially without White. The Bills and Chiefs aren't good enough at the cornerback position to play matchup football the same way that the Rams are. And, like, by the way, congratulations, Rams fans. That's pretty good win today.
Yeah.
They almost melted down, they dominated the Bucs. But, like, they're not – like, the Rams can take their best player on defense besides Donald and match him up against your best offensive player. Who do the Bills have – it's not Levi Wallace, right? It's not, Taron Johnson.
Right.
Like, the Chiefs can't put Charvarius Ward on Gabriel Davis.
No, that's a really good point.
So I get what you're saying. It's just more of a stylistic thing. And maybe that's where they think about – and maybe that's where people take lessons from the Rams, who a team I've been very critical of. But a lesson from the Rams is – if you do stay healthy or moderately healthy and you have superstars, you can erase other teams' superstars. And that's what neither the Chiefs or the Bills could do today, right? And that was, that's obviously a lesson to take. But I think if you're Buffalo, Buffalo went for more 4th downs than the average team would in this game. They were good on special teams for the most part. Their quarterback played a wonderful game. Their defense, what are you going to do? This is defensively. What are you going to do against Mahomes when he's playing that well?
Yeah, it's fair. And the take on this game should not be like revamp your defense.
Yeah.
Both quarterbacks were amazing. The L that we have to take this week, by the way, as we take an L every single week, the big one was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -2.5, which we talked about last week, and it looked like they had a chance there at the end. But ultimately in that game, they got a couple of turnovers. Cam Akers got a couple. Both their tackles got smoked. Absolutely toasted. We were so worried about Josh Wells, who took over for Tristan Wirfs, and he was not good. But Donovan Smith got punctured multiple times by Von Miller and Leonard Floyd in that game. Both of them had like sub 40 PFF grades before review. And that just gave them next to
is
no
that
hope.
The hard part about having an offense where one of the so like you can get by in the NFL where one of your tackles is kind of a 4 out of 10 and the other guy is a 9 out of 10, and like that was always like Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher, for example, is like that sometimes. And like, but when the 9 out of 10 gets hurt, then when you can't help the 4 out of 10 anymore, he's out on an island, he's getting fucking beat up.
I think that's the thing, right? You kind of expected Donovan Smith to be solid,
but that's just because he has help,
Because he has help, and it's interesting in that first half, which is where the game was lost. Tom Brady was pressured on 10 of 23 dropbacks. All 10 of those came in under 2.5 seconds. So, like, it's one thing where if you're getting pressure, Tom Brady can do some things, but Tom Brady is not Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in those situations, right? It's just if you're going to get there that quickly and he doesn't have Antonio Brown, doesn't have Chris Godwin, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Brady's not retiring.
No.
No chance.
No.
What do you think about your guy?
Peyton? Peyton. I told you about Peyton, didn't I?
No, I'm not talking about Peyton. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, my guy. What are all the names? The names are pretty amazing. Kudos to our friend Jeff Schwartz, who sent me the list. Do we want to read the list?
Go over the list. This is the list. So this is the official. Oh, and by the way, someone says PFF won't give Stafford credit for playing a perfect game and winning the game by himself. You're right. I will not, because he did not play a perfect game and did not win the game by himself.
I just said the Rams played brilliantly, and they dominated the Bucs.
That's true. And there was he played very well, especially given the way that the Bucs attacked him, which was really stupid.
And Joseph Noteboom played a great game.
Yes.
That is something I did not expect. And kudos to him.
He deserved a game ball for sure. Okay, so this is the official list.
Yes. These are not names we've made up, although we do find some of them funny.
Yes, correct.
Clan Marino.
The funniest thing about that name is it has nothing to do with anything that he said. Yeah.
It was just somebody coming. Rush Lambeau, Throw Rogan, which Throw Rogan was invented by our own Brad Spielberger.
I like Throw Rogan.
Prager Unitas, like off of Prager University. Yeah. Breitbart Star, which is my favorite.
Breitbart Star is
my favorite. QB Giuliani, Oani Romo.
I like that.
Yeah. Tuck Rule Carlson. Q Aaron Rodgers. And here are 3. This one's 10, and there's 2 in the below that I think are really good. Kurt D. Wormer.
Yeah, that one's good.
Dim Tebow.
That's a good one.
Marjorie Taylor Green Bay.
I think Marjorie Taylor Green Bay is the funniest one because it doesn't have anything with Aaron or Rodgers. That's great.
Like, has anything ever united us as a country more than
shitting on the Green Bay Packers?
Because I think some people probably agree with him and are like still like, oh, he's kind of it's nice to see him lose because he's kind of a dick and like all this stuff. But also, let's take a moratorium. Let's take a revisit of that game. So that was the most impressive offensively called game I've ever seen that scored 6 points.
Yeah.
Like, it was like he made some epic calls in that game, and execution for the Niners wasn't great.
Nope. A lot of drops.
The Elijah Mitchell not following Trent Williams on the 4th down when he was pulling or he was motioning and then kicking out was terrible. The drops and everything. But then I come back, and again, this might be my prior on LaFleur. What blame does Matt LaFleur take in that game?
I think he's got to take a decent amount. The interesting thing about that game was it never felt like the Green Bay Packers couldn't move the ball. That was what was so interesting. It felt like they were moving it fairly consistently. They came out in that game, and on the first drive, Davante Adams had 3 catches. Now he went over, but it was interesting. In the game that they won, he had 18 targets. And I think if you can say there's any place to play anywhere to place some blame, it would be like, why are you not shoveling your best player and the best receiver in the game the ball? That was the one thing that I came away with. And especially in the game where Ambry Thomas was out, and then Dante Johnson got hurt, and Josh Norman came in. So I think LaFleur deserves a little bit of blame there. Aaron Rodgers had that dispassionate look the whole game.
It was weird.
It was very strange.
Weird. But he also missed plays. Like the last 3rd down that he had was a great call. Mm-hmm. And he opted to throw the ball to Adams in double coverage instead of throwing the open guy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Rodgers, where does he play next year?
So he should have retired, shouldn't he, before this year? In hindsight.
Stop.
In hindsight.
He won the MVP.
If Rodgers would have retired, we know nothing. We know nothing about any of this stuff. He doesn't. This is more disappointing than last year. Our friend Justice Mosqueda, Packers fan, also very smart, was saying he thought he put this game on par with the 14 NFC Championship game, the one they lost to Seattle, as like the worst loss in his like lifetime as a Packers fan.
That loss was really bad.
That loss was bad, but this one's home, divisional round, and like as much as I don't hate Jimmy G as much as some people against Jimmy G, because the Jimmy G kind of quarterback,
I have a little bit of a theory here.
Okay.
So a lot of people thought this was funny, and it was really funny. The picture from the Washington Redskins in 2014, where Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur is the quarterback's coach, and Sean McVay is the tight ends coach. And you know that thing where like your older brother is just like always your older brother?
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Shanahan has a little bit of that over LaFleur and McVay. And I know it's such an analytics thing to say, but there is that little bit, and I think part of it is just the confidence that Shanahan has that shows up with his team. But you see this with the Niners, and I think this is the reason why in games like this, where their quarterback is outmatched, they still have such a good chance of winning these games, is because they play with a confidence and a physicality and athleticism that you just don't see in a lot of teams. And they continually do it even when they're banged up. And you've got to look at placing some of that on the way that the coaches prepare. I think it's a combination of really well-taught scheme. They're able to fly at 100% because they know what they're doing, and they have a ton of confidence in what their coaches are telling them to do is going to work. That helps you go out there and just go.
It also it's also not the optimal way to play football. So not that many people, and that's always my criticism of Shanahan in the first place is the optimal way to play football is the way the Bills and the Chiefs just did it, right? So he's finding in math.
What does Jimmy G look like if you ask him to do what Josh Allen did today?
But that's part of the whole thing, right? Football is a landscape, right? And the Chiefs and the Bills are on the global optimum, right? Yep. And the Niners are at a local optimum, and sometimes you can win doing that, right? But I wouldn't select for what the Niners do. If I were starting a franchise over, I would not select a Shanahan because I don't think that offense is the optimal. If I had those kind of players a priori, right, then I would work with, that's. I think that's the distinction. And so, if I'm a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and we saw this year, I'm building defenses to beat the Bills and the Chiefs.
Right.
And by the way, don't wound what you can't kill. All that has not, that worked for 6 weeks, right? Or, 12 weeks maybe. But so then, as every defense in the NFL is zigging, the Niners constantly they have this consistent edge over a lot of teams in the NFL because they're so unique, but they're not it's sort of like that scene in A Beautiful Mind where they're like the second cutest girl, that's who the Niners are on offense. And so they have this consistent edge by the way that they play, and there's limitations associated with that, of course. But there's a reason. George, did you know this? In the last 11 years, the Niners have 5 seasons of 6 or fewer wins, and 5 seasons where they've made the NFC Championship game. Either if they have a winning season, they make the NFC title game, and that's freaking absurd, But wouldn't you? You're a Niners fan. You'd rather have that. If you're going to be 10, if you're going to be 8 and 9 or whatever, who gives a fuck? Just go 6 and 10 and get a draft pick.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be good, be good.
That you can trade away for a backup quarterback. We're going to talk plenty of Niners-Rams when we get to that game. We missed a segment that the people are calling for, and that is Ramsplaining. So usually when we Ramsplain, it's, people have gotten all excited about the Rams, and we kind of need to bring them back to light here, or down to earth. Jesus. But for this segment, I am going to it's going to be a little bit of a Todd Bowles bringing him back to earth thing here. If you knew one thing about the Rams, it was this. Against the blitz this year, they have a 0.534 expected points added per play. Okay, now for everyone out there that has no idea what that is because you don't spend your entire life in your mother's basement cranking numbers. That is insane. That was 0.2 of a point better than any other team against the blitz. It was insane how good and efficient they were against the blitz. Matt Stafford, 4th highest graded quarterback against the blitz. The Bucs have blitzed at the 2nd highest rate of any team in the NFL. When they blitzed Stafford in week 3, he carved him up. Absolutely carved him up. He went 9 for 11, 91 yards, touchdown, carved him up. In this game, did the same thing in the first half, went 8 for 10, 71 yards and a touchdown, carved him up. Guess what Todd Bowles and the Bucs did on the last 2 plays that sank their season? They blitzed, and it was fucking stupid. All you had to do was keep the play in front of you. And that failure to adapt and adjust against what a team is doing to beat you is unacceptable.
The Rams kicker left a kick that was 47 yards short. And you were worried about them getting it to the 40 or some shit. I honestly,
and here's the thing, and this is where I'm going to give Matt Stafford a hell of a lot of credit. The first play on that last drive, it looked like he had lost it. What the hell, man? And I think that is probably the little bit of a difference between him and Jared Goff that matters for this team, which is mentally it's a little bit stronger. And he came up and he made some plays where he got hit.
Yeah.
And he made a play, they blitzed, and he was ready, and he fucking nailed that throw. And so,
and he nailed the open throw to the cover 2 at the beginning of the game. So like he took a sack from Vea, and it's 10-3, and it's like, oh, Bucs will get the ball back, they'll be in business, whatever, blah blah blah. And like he just and I'll say this year, his deep ball accuracy has been pretty freaking
insane.
Good. And so yeah, I mean, good for him. I mean, the question remains, can he? The question when they signed him, right, or they traded for him, and the question I think with all these quarterbacks who are sort of beneath what we saw tonight with the Bills and Chiefs, by a tier or two. Stafford this year I think played in the second tier, right, like firmly. Mm-hmm. Can they put 4 games together like that? Because like I mean. Everybody, and there are people in the mentions and all this stuff who are, Stafford, he owns you guys. It's like, I mean, Matt Stafford led the league in interceptions this year. Like he's had this is how I would describe it, a very good but uneven year.
What? I hate to do this, but like Chris made a point coming out of the half that was the point of the first half. Tom Brady was in a pocket that was contracting faster than someone's wallet at a blackjack table after having 10 shots. I don't know where that came from, but
good analogy.
Yeah, thank you. It was a puckering butthole is what his pocket looked like. Meanwhile, Matt Stafford, credit to Joe Noteboom and the way Sean McVay had was really playing a lot of condensed formations, was really helping, was comfortable the whole time. Mm-hmm. That offense is going to be good when the quarterback is comfortable because they have really good receivers and Sean McVay can scheme a dude open.
Right.
It'll be very interesting to see in this game, and there's a lot of data around the Giants, the Niners, and the Rams that's really interesting. That's very different from how the Bucs play football, and I think it's going to be a fascinating game for that reason. But Jared Goff played really well in that offense when that was the case as well. And so I don't want to let that be lost in translation. I'm not trying to take anything away from Matt Stafford, but that's just the facts. Yeah,
I mean, look, he averaged 8.2 yards an attempt this year. That was the second highest, I believe, in his career. He had you can't take the touchdowns away from him.
You can't. You actually can't.
No.
Yeah, it's impossible.
No one. The results are the results. I'm excited to see him play next week against the Niners.
That. The results are the results. That commercial is tough to watch.
Yeah.
A lot of really bad commercials.
Do you think so? So when Stafford, by the way, I say this. Do you think like Mahomes and Allen both get like 2 WAR for that game because like their defense both gave up a win?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the takeaway from that game was we have Mahomes power ranked number 1 in our quarterback.
He's not
against
that
the
high
spread
in the grades
rankings
this year.
And look, he is one of the interesting things about contextualizing how good a quarterback is. So PFF grading within a season is a small sample, right? That's just the facts on football. And so Mahomes, he went through a long period where not a lot of big time throws, more turnover-worthy plays than big time throws for a good portion of the season. And for most quarterbacks, when you see that, you go, okay, I'm kind of out on this guy, right? But Mahomes has 3 seasons of absolutely elite, astronomical, out-of-this-world play. That doesn't get carried over into his individual season's grade. But that's why in our betting models, we're going to make sure that we put that in context of his entire career. And that's why he's been number 1 or tied number 1 for points against the spread for quarterbacks for the entire season on PFF.com. By the way, promo code FORECAST, FORECAST, gets you 25% off either Edge or Elite. Get an Elite subscription. Gives you all the betting tools. You'll need them for the conference championship. Go get it. Go make it happen. But with Allen, he was 4th. And you look at the guys that are ahead of him in Rodgers and Brady, and I think we're at the point with Allen where the same thing is true about him that is Mahomes. And I'm not saying that he is as good as Mahomes, but it's like you may see him play a couple of shaky games. Don't doubt him in the next game because of that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you do have to roll up a lot of these things, and like this is where, and again, I don't mean to the thing. We'll say something like, "Oh, so and so is not very good." It's like, "Well, you graded him wrong." I'm like, "Well, for one, I don't grade the games. I'm a mathematician." But the other thing is, like, we're using samples that are like longer, right? And we're contextualizing those samples, and you have to, because like think about it. Like, I don't mean to belabor that. I don't mean to like bring up Mahomes all the time, but like,
you don't? You sure? I feel like you kind of try.
He didn't play very well for half the season this year.
No, he didn't.
Does that, again, like my thing with all this stuff, and again, like we talk about betting, we talk about trying to be right, and the fact is like I don't care what those 8 games are, as long as we can properly contextualize them and use them to talk about what's going to happen next. January 22nd, right? And so like I honestly do not care what Matthew Stafford has done for the first 19 weeks of the season. I want to know how he's going to do next week. And that's, again, the NFL is about winning Super Bowls. It's not about like having your favorite player play well for 6 games. It's just not. And so that's part of like where we have to be.
Yeah, if you want to look at, so PFF grade for season, the goal there is to say how well they have played that season.
In their current role.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to know what we predict that quarterback to do going forward, go look at our NFL power rankings and look at what we have the teams and the quarterbacks power rated. That's being predictive of what's going to happen in the future. That's the goal. So it's important to contextualize those. And by the way, I should say this. I really appreciate, people in the chat talking about things. Like, it's really good to hear what everyone out there is curious about, because like sometimes you don't, you're in your fucking zone. You're like, you don't know what's going on. Sorry for swearing, by the way. But it's important because we need to talk about these things, or else people are just going to be, no one has 10 hours a day to go study all this shit. So,
yeah. And by the way, somebody pointed this out, which I thought was a really good point. Mahomes' 2 worst seasons might be 2 seasons he wins the Super Bowl. Like we talked about this.
Who was it? Give him a shout.
When Brock Laser, when we did the Ramsplaining segment, when we were talking about going all in on a particular year, right? That was when we talked about sort of trying to be the best team and like doing everything you can to be the best team in one year is not as sound of an effort as trying to be good for like a 3-year stretch, because it's just like a probability statement. If you want to have exactly one thing happen, it's going to be a lot less probable than 3 things happening.
True.
This one or that one. And it's because, like, you think about it, the Packers just lost, right? The last MVP, and assuming Aaron Rodgers is the MVP, the last MVP to win a Super Bowl was Kurt Warner in 1999. So, like, the fact is every single year, the team that wins the Super Bowl is winning some other team's Super Bowl, right? The Packers were favorites going into this postseason. They're out. Chiefs were the favorites last postseason. They didn't win it. Ravens were the favorites the postseason before. They're gone. Chiefs were the favorite. They didn't win it, right? Patriots were the favorite in 17. It's just math. The field is always a good bet against the favorite. And so, like, again, it's interesting when we talk about, like, oh, this is his best year. This is that best year. Like, football is a noisy game. That's why you have to have sound evaluation methods so that you can properly probabilize all these things.
The other thing is, if you don't, then you're going to go crazy, by the way, because like this game is fucking nuts. God darn it. The interesting thing about the games this weekend is, even though I'm going to lose my best bet of the offseason, I feel vindicated and validated for it, which was that Tom Brady was the most valuable player this season and Aaron Rodgers was not. And Aaron Rodgers is going to win. He's a huge favorite, and Tom Brady should have won it. You should have cashed that 16-1 ticket. I'm sorry. Did what I could.
I had a 7-1 on the Bucs to win the Super Bowl for pretty big money, and that one's going to die too.
Look, it's okay. We will survive. We'll be back next year. For everyone that rode that with me, I'm here with you, buddy. before we get into, so we're going to guess the lines here and talk about these games. Obviously, we haven't talked a ton about the Bengals yet. We'll talk about them in this next segment, as well as the Niners. If you are planning on making a little trip, maybe you're going to go watch a game. Maybe your team's in the conference championship. You're going to go check out a game. Or you're tired of the freezing cold and you're going to go find a place that's warm. Or you're in a warm place and you're going to go, shred some pow in the mountains. Get yourself cleaned up before you travel. Get Manscaped and the Lawnmower 4.0. With promo code PFF, you can get 20% off plus free shipping. Don't travel ungroomed. Don't be that person. It's not comfortable. It's not gonna do you any good. So get the Performance Package 4.0, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0. I use it all the time. It works like an absolute dream. Long battery life, so you can take it on trips wherever you go. That Performance Package also includes Ultra Premium Body Wash, which is good. You want to smell good. You want to be clean. So go to manscaped.com. Use promo code PFF. Get 20% off plus free shipping with that promo code. It's a new year. Be a new you with Manscaped. All right. We have two games.
Did you see Stephon Diggs tackled that the nudist that ran around the field?
I did see that. Good for him.
Somebody, by the way, kind of a nice burn. Oh shit, Stephon Diggs played tonight.
Yeah.
Woof.
Right. But
them putting up 36 without a whiff from Diggs is also impressive. Again, I'm showering Buffalo as they go another year without a Super Bowl win. But a great that they can win multiple different ways.
The Gabriel Davis renaissance is a real good come up for them. Everyone thought it was going to be Emmanuel Sanders, but Gabriel Davis is a real nice player.
Gabriel Davis was pretty good. Gabriel Davis was good at UCF.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, it is time. So the early game will be the AFC Championship game. It will be 3 p.m. on CBS. Nance and Tony Romo, the Bengals, the Cincinnati freaking Bengals, are playing the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. I made this line 6.5. What'd you make it?
7.
You made it 7. I believe.
And I just made it there. You have not. I have not lost. I have not been removed from your site since the Chiefs won a game to host their 4th consecutive AFC Championship game.
What is it?
7.
It is 7.
Pinnacle has it 7. Total's 53.5. The Sharps are going to love under in that game.
So okay, let's we're going to pull out here. What's your take on 7, given that you just watched that Bills game and you've watched the Bengals play the Chiefs already?
I mean, I think the rational person in me says what happened in week 17 doesn't matter, and the Bengals have a lot of flaws. But the person in me that respects the hell out of Joe Burrow is saying, take the points.
I am taking 7. There's a reason I did not make that line 7, because when I made it 7, I said, you know what? Let me think about what Joe Burrow has done. And there's a stat that I thought really epitomized Joe Burrow. So the Tennessee Titans, their defense played really freaking well yesterday. They do something very interesting with their defense, which Zach Taylor and his offensive line were not prepared for, Eric. Woefully unprepared for, which is the problem with the Bengals. They're not that great from that standpoint. But what they do is they simulate pressure at the highest rate in the league, more than 10% higher than any other team in the league, which means they show that they're going to blitz more than 4, and they end up dropping some guy out and blitzing 4, meaning they blitz someone that isn't supposed to be a pass rusher. And it confused the hell out of a lot of teams this year. It got Joe Burrow the first time. They did it 5 times against him. The next 4 times, he went 4 for 4 and averaged 22 yards per
T.
attempt.
Higgins had a nice little game.
Yeah. The thing with Joe Burrow that I think we're learning is this dude figures out a way. It honestly, and I'm not making a Brady comparison, but it's kind of similar to Brady in the way that somehow his team down 20-3 at halftime had a chance to win that game. And that's to me the Joe Burrow thing. Here's another thing. Will Tyrann Mathieu play in that game?
I mean, it's a concussion, right? So, like,
you got to think so. He looked, and I know like concussions are impossible to predict. He definitely did not look great. He had to go to the locker room. I don't know, man. I have a hard time not seeing it be a pretty similar game to the game we saw tonight.
Yeah. The difference is the Bengals. Like, I think Burrow is just slightly less good than Allen. Like, there were plays that Josh Allen made that if you play that defense against Burrow, it's probably a sack. You know what I mean? And like,
so you're looking at Burrow last week and you're saying, look, this dude's going to take a bunch of sacks.
It's not even that. It's just more of like, I think Josh Allen's a 9 out of 10. I think Burrow's an 8.5 out of 10. And I think that the 0.5 there is not being able to avoid the fourth down sack, basically all that. Like, there were a lot of plays where the Chiefs had Allen dead to rights. And there's also like the weird, like, this is the thing I really liked about Buffalo today. They had a couple like really woke third down plays, which was it's 3rd and 6, and Josh Allen's running a QB sneak for 3 yards, and they're going to go for 4th down. Mm-hmm. The Bengals aren't doing that shit. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, it's a combination.
You don't think so?
It's a combination.
I do think here's the thing with the Bengals. The Bengals have nothing to freaking lose. Nothing. They are playing with so much house money right now. It is nuts. And I will say this, as good as the Bills are offensively from a weapon perspective, the Bengals receiving corps is better. It is better, man. Jamar Chase is an ace. T. Higgins is killing people. Tyler Boyd is great in the slot. I mean, hell, CJ Uzoma's out there, like, Joe Mixon rumbling after catching some passes. And this was interesting about the Bengals. Their tackles played well. Everyone was getting, this was so funny. Everyone was watching Joe Burrow take sacks. I believe only 2 of his sacks came in 2.5 seconds or less, and every other one was more than 2.5 seconds after. And the tackles played well. So for everyone out there going like, oh my God, they should have drafted Penei Sewell. You're an idiot. Watch the game. Their guards were getting crushed. And there is no Jeffrey Simmons in this game. Now, there is a Chris Jones, and that would be the concern, right, is that Chris Jones is going to torch that interior, and they won't be able to overcome that. But that's the worry, right? That's how they lose by more than 7. Here's the other thing that's interesting. In that game that they played in Cincinnati, remember, that was a blowout. It was a complete rout at halftime. And
Tyreek Hill dropped like a bomb that would have put them up like 14 to what was it, like 24
mm-hmm,
could have been?
Mm-hmm. And
18, sorry.
And then the Bengals came back. Now, that was at home. It required some really good play by the referees in their favor, and a redonkulous decision by the Chiefs to not keep Jamar Chase like double covered on a 3rd and 19 or something like that. So that's your angle. If you're going to bet Kansas City here, it's like, look, we've seen this game already. It was a fraudulent comeback. This is in Arrowhead. We have home field, KC -7.
Yeah, I agree.
If it gets out to 7.5, little tease action. I'm not sure what you would tease it with, but.
Well, yeah, you don't tease the not, there's a lot of people in this space that tease out to 9. I was like, if you like 9, you like 3. You like 3.
Dude, there's nothing, and I don't want to be.
Look, I got this +9.
I don't want to be an elitist prick, but
you
can tell if someone knows what they're doing or knows anything about math by looking at their teasers. Shout out to Zach Tantillo, by the way. One of our social dudes runs our main account, and he always gets me by posting in a Slack chat a teaser that teases through 0 or from 5 out to 11. And you can tell based on whether someone places a teaser that doesn't go through 3 and 7, whether they get it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so the chat, by the way, 57% are taking Bengals +7. Do you think it moves out? Do you think it moves to 6.5? Do you think you should, if you're betting Cincy, should you bet them now?
No. Did you see what happened to the Chiefs Buffalo line this week? So like when we bet it at -2, it got to -1 this morning. Mm-hmm. Like I was in Chicago for a funeral. I drove back today, and when I went to go bet it this morning through Indiana, -1, closed -2, -115. You know, like people are gonna like the Chiefs at the end, right? They might head fake you at the beginning to get it to 6.5. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter. It opened at 6.5. That's kind of what, you know, and,
so you think
people bet it up. People bet up Kansas City. I don't think they're going to bet down. Unless if Matthew is legit hurt, like look, legit as in he can't play. I think a concussion is a legitimate injury. If he can't play, then that might be an issue. You know, that might be this like because their secondary is a mess if they don't have Matthew.
Now, Charvarius Ward also got hurt in the game. DeAndre Baker came in. Do we know anything about?
Ward came back in though.
Oh, he came back in. Yeah. That's right. Okay, there you go. Anything else to say about this game?
Here's a question because I have a big bet on this. Mm-hmm. Does Zach Taylor win Coach of the Year? It's not supposed to take into consideration going into Tennessee and beating Vrabel.
Aren't the votes already in? Didn't you have to vote already?
That's a good question.
I believe so. I think that's the whole.
So does he win? He doesn't win it then. Probably it's probably Vrabel because Vrabel's the favorite. Yeah, but like if you let it play out.
Okay, this is a good question. You have a vote. Who are you voting for? Who deserves the Coach of the Year this year? And why is it Rick Versace?
F.O. Sachi. That's a great question. Let me. Okay, so I think Taylor deserves some credit because that team was 2-14 his first year, and now they're not, and they're and I know a lot of that's Burrow, but like, did I the Bengals? I didn't realize. So I've been going to Bengals games all year, and they have this like we talked to Ricardo Allen. He's a friend of the. So they signed him. He's a guy who's played 1,000 snaps in the league in a year, and it's starting defensive back. They have Trey Flowers. He's playing dime safety. Mm-hmm. They got like 7 defensive backs that prior to this year played 1,000 snaps in a year for another NFL team. Like they built a secondary from using Burrow's like money. I think that okay. So Bengals certainly with Zach Taylor certainly in the mix. I think you have to consider Mike Tomlin. That team's dog shit, and they made the playoffs.
Cliff.
I don't think you can give it anywhere close to Sirianni, even though they did overachieve. That team was mostly bad. Mm-hmm. I think Shanahan deserves a vote.
I do.
Because that quarterback, I mean, Jimmy G's not that good, and that team's on the doorstep. You can't give it to a non-playoff team. In weird ways, the Bucs, the Cowboys.
What about LaFleur?
I just don't think people are going to give LaFleur credit, but like Rodgers is. I think if yesterday's game Saturday's game told us anything, it's that Rodgers isn't that good when he goes off script anymore. Like LaFleur keeping that guy confined. Mm-hmm. Like Aaron Nagler, who's a friend of the show, made a great point. He said, when his toe is injured, you got better performance out of him down the stretch because he had to like stay in.
Yeah.
The bye week and all that, getting him healthy. Mm-hmm. He kind of freelanced yesterday.
And what was interesting about that was that his play under pressure went to absolute dog shit. Rodgers has historically always been really, really good under pressure. His play under pressure went to dog shit, and everyone's like, oh my God, this guy's playing incredible. And that's a good reminder to everybody who gets excited about things like play under pressure. It's just not that predictive, right? It's not something that you want to go out and like hang your hat on. Anyways, so who are you giving your vote to?
Zach Taylor.
Okay. I like the Zach Taylor vote. The issue with that is that the Zach Taylor vote is really, if you watch the Bengals play, they overcame a scheme that was rather unimaginative. And that was because Jamar Chase is a freaking god. I don't know what it is, but like when he catches the ball, he goes from 0 to 60, but also it manages to move laterally at the same time in a split second. The first guy is not getting a finger on him. And that type of play is what made that team and Joe Burrow and he with a great connection that they carried over from college, what made them so great. I think the answer, the person that I would vote for, and I'm going to include the playoffs here, the person that I would vote for, first, honorable mention, Dan Campbell, covering God. The fact that that team actually played hard and beat 2 playoff teams was incredible. But I'm not actually going to give him my vote. My vote would go to Kyle Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
I just think you got to look at the way that team has played over the last 11 weeks and go, holy shit.
Also,
the way that where he puts Deebo Samuel, like the way that
it's even more than that. Robert Salah left, and they still have a great defense.
Yeah, D'Amico Ryan's incredible.
Yeah, but like I think coordinators are somewhat a reflection of the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean Mike McDaniel's going to get a head coaching job probably this year, right? Like,
no, but he'll get looks. I think he's a next year guy, but he's cool. He seems like a cool guy.
I'll say this. When the Niners go to the Super Bowl, Mike McDaniel's getting a head coaching job. Okay. Let's move on to the NFC game. This is the 6:30 game. Before we get to that game, if you're going to place a bet, go place it on DraftKings and the DraftKings Sportsbook, the official and unofficial sports betting partner of the NFL. Here's the deal. Use promo code PFF when you sign up and get 56-1 odds on any team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. Counting down to the Super Bowl, you're getting those 56-1 odds at DraftKings Sportsbook using promo code PFF. If, for some unknown reason, you're living in a state where betting is not legal, there's still plenty of great ways to win huge cash prizes without risking any money over at DraftKings. They have a free shot to win $1 million with your first deposit, and you can play daily fantasy in any state for huge cash prizes as well. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Get those 56-1 odds on any team to win, and then get those $280 in free bets. You must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers are the ones that are eligible. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required, one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
By the way, some people are pointing this out. It's actually true, and I think when I was on the show today, I just wanted it to happen, so I didn't realize how big of a mistake it was. The Bills kicking a touchback with that 13 seconds was really stupid.
Yes, that's a good call out by the people. By the way, Cincinnati now down to 54%. Whoever mentioned that is
egregious.
Who makes that call?
It has to be the head. It has to be the head coach. If it's not,
so Tyreek Hill was back there, right? I believe
Pringle.
Oh, it was Pringle.
Yeah.
Because you could see if it was Tyreek Hill, they shit themselves, right? And go, oh no, we can't kick it to Tyreek Hill, and they kick it into the end zone. So if they kick it off to Hill, if they kick it short, or kick it off to Pringle, whatever. So there's 13 seconds. Say they kick it short and catch it at the 15. They would need to get to what? Like the 40 with, 8 seconds left? Was that what they had?
Yeah.
The chances of them getting it to the 40 are low, and it's probably...
I was just so happy.
It's probably like 8 seconds,
as a Chiefs fan,
right?
I was just so happy that Pringle let it go.
Yeah.
Because the Chiefs are literally the number one team in the NFL at returning kicks that go into the end zone. So that was out of character for them.
Yeah, that was massive. Okay, we have Niners.
So the Bills didn't do everything right, but they did play a great game.
Yeah, they missed a few fourth downs. The Niners finally with a home game in the playoffs, going to sunny SoFi Stadium. The 6-seed Niners playing the 4-seed Rams. Would you make this spread?
3.
Me and you, baby, made it 3. What is it?
It's 3.5, 3, depending upon. So on Pinnacle, +3 is +110 for the Niners. -3 is -122 for the Rams. Total on the game, 46.5.
But yeah, right in between. Okay. We have seen this game twice already. The Niners have been
this exact game.
Yes. The Niners have gone 2-0. They've won their last 6 against Sean McVay. And this year they have 2 really different wins, but both rather impressive. The first one they won 31-10. Then the Rams didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. And then in the Week 18 game, that was Week 10. That was the first game with Von Miller. In Week 18, they were down 17-3, I believe, or is it 20-3? Came back and won. McVay was undefeated after leading at halftime, and was so excited that he went into the end zone to hop around with his team after scoring a second quarter touchdown. That backfired. So I guess my question, and I will answer this after, is do the Niners just have the Rams number?
I thought that was going to be kind of the case when Tampa came out and ran the ball on the first 2 plays for 20 yards to Leonard Fournette, and I was like, oh, this is how the Bucs are going to win, right? Like the Rams are kind of soft in the with respect to, I believe, what was the Bucs? Sorry, the Rams put the fewest men in the box in football. The Niners elicit the 5th most men in the box in football, so it's like a mismatch of schemes. Yeah, I think that's really it. Now, the one thing that you have to be concerned about if you're a Niners fan, though, right? Like, the Niners' traditional running game is not working very well of late. I think that has to improve for them to really control the game the way that they want to, right? If you look at, like, Elijah Mitchell's last few games, right? Like, it's not pretty from a efficiency standpoint. And, like, he's kind of the baseline, right? So let's just look at his last few games against the Rams in Week 18. 21 for 85, that 4.05 yards a carry. That's below average. It's not terrible. Last week against Dallas, 27 for 96, so that's 3.56 yards a carry. And then against Green Bay, 17 for 53, that's 3.12 yards a carry. The Debo stuff works a lot better when the Elijah Mitchell stuff is working. And I think that there's they're struggling a little bit on the Elijah Mitchell stuff lately.
Yeah. The numbers in these 2 matchups have been really, really interesting because you mentioned the run game. You know where the Niners are killing the Rams? The passing game. They are averaging 0.4 expected points added per pass play against the Rams this year. For comparison, the Bucs, who are second and have played the Rams twice, are averaging half that. And that is, I think it says a lot about where the Rams are strong and where they're weak, and where the Niners are strong and where the Rams are weak. And it's particularly over the middle of the field. Jimmy G over the middle of the field is 29 for 36 for 319 and 3 touchdowns over the middle of the field. I think he has like 75 yards total outside the numbers. And I found this to be really, really interesting on that same side of the ball. Aaron Donald had a 93 grade this season. He had a 61 grade against the Niners in 2 games, just 3 pressures. He has only 3 games of a sub-70 PFF pass rush grade. 2 of them came against the Niners, including his only game in the 50s. And it's the way that the Niners move and are creative with the way that they block and how they, with their run game, I hate to say this, but and their motion dictate a ton of shit. And that has been a recipe for success. Obviously, if you're going to slow Aaron Donald down, that's a huge thing. But here's the big thing, and this is why seeing the Rams dominate the Bucs doesn't worry me as a Niners fan, seeing them go against the Rams. It's the Todd Bowles thing. Todd Bowles blitzed himself to death and literally lost his team a game. In 2 games against the Rams, the Niners have blitzed 14% of the time. That would be the lowest in the league. Lowest in the league. And when they have blitzed, by the way, Matt Stafford's killed him, has a 92 grade, but they've only given him 10 chances to throw against the blitz. Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, even Charles Omenihu, like that D line is winning. Over the past 11 games, they're the only team in the NFL that is averaging, I forget, what did I say? Top 5 sack rate, top 5 pressure rate, and are blitzing at a bottom 5 rate. In other words, they're winning with their front 4. Matt Stafford has made a living against the blitz. I'm betting the Niners +3, baby.
+3.5, you can even
get. +3.5, yeah, sorry. +3.5. Look, here, I don't know. I think in Week 18, Kyle Shanahan, what he said is, look, Sean, we're going to go to the park, get dressed, put your shoes on, put him in the back seat of the car. They went to the park. They played around a little bit. He let Sean have some fun, but then he was like, you know what, Sean, we got to go home, put him back in the car. I think this week he gets him to the stadium. He goes on a long walk on the beach, down Santa Monica, up to Inglewood, pushes him in the stroller, lets him come out, play around a little before the game, and then puts the hammer down.
This dad analogy, a little stretched.
You think it's a little stretched here?
No, look, and actually, I actually went back. In the 31-10 game, Elijah Mitchell was like 27 carries for 91 yards. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the Debo. But to your point about Garoppolo, and this is why, did you know that Jimmy G led the league this year in yards per completion?
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
Is it
Coach of the Year, Kyle
Jimmy
Shanahan.
G throws what's called, and Kyle calls good shit, right? And that, like, the only thing. So, are you worried at all?
San Francisco +3.5, getting 60% of the votes.
Are you worried at all? Shoulder, thumb, and again, granted, some of it's Green Bay, right? Some of it's obviously the weather and stuff. Mm-hmm. Every throw is a duck. Saturday, right? Are you worried that the Rams will be aggressive? I mean, but that's the thing. Like, if they're aggressive with the Niners, it's going to be 70 yards to the good for the Niners.
If the Rams are aggressive to try and cut down Jimmy G, Kyle Shanahan is going to feast in this game.
I mean, that's like the whole basis of the offense is like,
Yeah, now here's the thing. I think Kyle Shanahan, being the good, responsible father that he is going to send Sean McVay to Cabo for spring break, after this game. He's going to do the right thing. Give him a little pocket change, tell him not to catch any STDs out there in Cabo San Lucas while he's playing in the Super Bowl. But I need to say this about Jimmy G because people are shitting all over Jimmy G. And I'm not like, I do the thing where I talk about like how good looking he is and like all this stuff on Twitter. I understand that Jimmy G is super limited as a quarterback. But people hate on this dude like he is the worst fucking quarterback in the league, and he's not. The dude is playing with a sprained shoulder and a torn ligament in his thumb in 0 fucking degree weather, having never started a game below freezing. And he was bad. Did you see Aaron Rodgers? Like, don't give me that shit. Yeah. And he's good for one really shitty throw a game. What quarterback isn't? Well, did you see Matt Stafford today? Matt Stafford today literally hit
threw the ball
Jamel Dean in the fucking helmet today.
Stafford threw the ball to Jamel Dean twice.
And last I checked, his shoulder is not sprained, and he doesn't have a torn ligament in his thumb, and it was 60 degrees and sunny outside.
Here's the thing. Jimmy G gets the most production out of all of the quarterbacks who people believe isn't very good. And I think a lot of people are irritated that happens, and I think that they think that he has some sort of privilege that not that many people have.
What? That he's great looking?
No, that he gets to play with Shanahan. But I'll throw a few darts. Okay, if Ryan Tannehill played for Shanahan, I don't think it's as good. If Kirk Cousins played for Shanahan, everybody believes Kirk Cousins would be an MVP for Shanahan. Mm-hmm. I think Kirk Cousins would throw 4-yard passes on 3rd and 8, like he does in Minnesota. Because he's kind of like, I'll give this to Garoppolo. Garoppolo might not be very good, but he's got some balls.
Yeah, he has balls, and he has a short memory.
Yeah,
like he makes.
Again, he's not very good. We're not saying he's good. I'm saying he throws what's called, and that's why there's some interceptions. But that's why also when some of these guys are, why doesn't Derek Carr throw an interception? Why doesn't Kirk? It's because they don't throw the
They're
ball
not
in harm's
willing to
way.
take it, yeah.
And that's why they don't lead the league in EPA. They're not second in EPA, or they're not second in the league in yards per attempt, or they're not first in yards per completion. And again, we're saying the offense that's being called, Jimmy is running it. That's what he has over everybody else.
Someone said that I'm obsessed with how Jimmy G looks. Absolutely. I mean,
Goals?
yeah. Are you not? That's your problem. No, your point is exactly that, which is that, I mean, the game against Green Bay was a great example. He made 3 really nice throws in the first quarter of that game. They were all dropped.
Yeah.
Just throwing what was called. The throw the bad interception, interestingly, Kittle was open. That's a throw that Josh Allen makes. That's a throw that Patrick Mahomes makes. James G is not making that throw, okay? And that's the point. It's exactly the point. And that's why I think the Kyle Shanahan thing, you've got to give him some credit, because he literally winds him up, tells him where to throw, and then tells him to erase it if he makes a bad throw and go out there and do the same thing over and over and over again. And he does. And dude is playing with a jacked up arm and thumb. Like I don't know. People hating on him, I think, should chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Including myself.
Okay, so we like.
Hold on. Jimmy G is a top what quarterback?
I don't think it matters. That's the thing.
I'm just curious.
No one cares.
I'm just curious.
Jimmy G with Kyle Shanahan.
And healthy.
12.
I think I think it's like 15, 12.
This year, though, a lot of guys, you remember when we ranked quarterbacks?
Yeah.
A lot of guys went up, right? So in our list this year, we didn't have Herbert yet. We didn't have Burrow yet.
Yeah.
We didn't have, those 2 guys specifically. You have to probably bump Matt Ryan. You have to probably bump Baker Mayfield. Maybe Lamar is still there. But those guys.
Let's see what people think.
Oh.
Let's go.
12.5 is the total. Like, make it over under 12.5.
Oh, okay. I think over is going to get the resounding. Someone said he's the 13th best quarterback. Yeah, it's going to be over. It's over. Oh, come on. It's going to be over. Anyways, okay. So let's we got to pick both games, obviously. Let's talk about the totals as well. Total for the Rams Niners is you say 46.5?
Yeah. And then 53.5 for Chiefs Bengals.
Weather in Kansas City, I believe it's supposed to be similar to what it was today, which is like 36, not a lot of wind. Is that the case? Okay. So before we get to picking those games, make smart financial decisions. And that means check out our sponsors, Western and Southern Financial. They make sure your financial game is on lockdown, and they're making it very fun for you to do this year, because you can ask a question of Chris Collinsworth, and in doing so, enter for a chance to win a completely catered $2,500 big game feast on February 13th, 2022. That's a lot of cash. You can do a lot with that. Like, I don't know, maybe if you're in New York City, you can't have like 20 people over and get it catered by the greatest restaurant, but like $2,500 goes a long way. So go to westernsouthern.com/feast and ask Chris Collinsworth a question. It could be anything you want, like, hey man, Bengals Niners, how would you like to call that game? By the way, I did not know this. Bengals Niners, the Super Bowl is at 82, 83, highest rated game in history.
The one in Detroit?
Yeah. Yeah, I did not know that.
The one in 89 was Chris's last game in the NFL. So it sort of bookended his career, because he was a rookie in 81 and then
I think that would be a hell of a game. But they've got to get past the Kansas City Chiefs. So good luck. Anyways, enter for your chance to win the big feast at Western and Southern. Go by going to westernsouthern.com/feast and then listening to Chris Collinsworth's podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to see if your question
the last time the
answered.
Bengals played an AFC Championship game, Chris played.
Yeah, it's fair. Someone said Ben Roethlisberger is greater than Jimmy G. Sir?
Die.
No. I'm sorry. It's just not the case.
People are a little bit less.
We got a little over 62%. I think that makes sense. I think he's top 15. He's top 15. You apparently love Jimmy more than I do.
I like quarterbacks who can win.
Who knew? Okay, let's start with, you had to make one bet. What is it?
It's Niners plus 3.5.
I tend to agree with you. I also, in that game, I like over 46.5, I think. I don't know that I could bring myself to bet under 53.5. That might be a game where, similar to tonight's game, I would wait, see if it comes down a little bit. You can get it live over. We bet it over when it was 7-7. We bet over 47.5 as a shrewd pickup on your part.
There was a chance that game was going to land 50, and we would have gotten both pregame under and live over. But like the floodgates. I mean, if the Chiefs make the one stop and get a first down, that game ends 29-20, whatever it was. The totals. Luckily you don't points bet. You should never points bet an under because of the games like you had tonight, where it's like you could lose your shirt, with all those scores by our guy Josh Allen and Mahomes.
And then we have Bengals, Chiefs. Chiefs -7, total 53.5. If you have to bet one way or the other, which one are you betting?
I would take Bengals plus the points.
Same.
I don't feel good about it.
Gives you a little queasy
I think our model, we were wrong about Packers. We laid the 4.5, and then all my sports books came back and took 6 with the Niners. Because
I took 6, and then when I saw James G walk into the stadium, I took Niners money line. And you're welcome.
You know it. Yeah,
you are welcome.
You do know. I don't 53.5. I mean, bet the over and have a good time. But I actually think, given the weather and given the sacks and the offensive line, the Melvin Ingram had a great game tonight. Chris Jones, not so much, but Chris Jones against that Bengals interior.
That Bengals interior line, man, is brutal.
But then at the same time, if you throw the alley-oop to Chase against Charvarius Ward over and over and over again, T. Higgins had a great game against the Chiefs too. That's the thing. So,
by the way, I have a stat for you here.
That, please.
You're going to enjoy. For everyone who thinks Jimmy G is a top 12 quarterback, last 4 games, the dude has 10 turnover-worthy plays and 2 big-time throws.
I said with Shanahan.
2 big-time throws and
Shanahan.
10 turnover-worthy plays. But I'll say this, man. He's a winner.
I said with Shanahan.
That is
You don't think he's 12?
Such a bad ratio.
You don't think he's 12?
I will say this. I don't – in the fourth quarter – if you need to win a game.
He had 127, no timeouts, down 7.
And you need a drive. The nice thing about Jimmy G is he's not going to he's going to throw the ball. He's not going to shit himself. Well, he might, but I have a lot more confidence in him needing one drive than I do Kirk Cousins, for example.
Garoppolo is the worst graded quarterback of the weekend prior to review.
Yeah, I mean, this is the lowest graded quarterback, I think, of any quarterback in the playoffs so far. Yeah. It would be my guess pending review. But when you need him to come up big, he does.
I mean, again, my biggest thing with him is he runs again, if you need 8 on third down, he's going to probably throw the 8, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a big deal. For anyone out there that watches Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr.
Kirk's really good at dumping it down on third and but that's why the team led the league in third 3 and outs. That doesn't show up necessarily in a grade or a statistic. It might, but it's there's a little bit of good Hart's law that's going on with some of these quarterbacks who want contracts, which is once you measure something, it's the guy's optimizing for that, and you're you come up for air and you're why you've won games? Well, maybe you're optimizing for something different.
Jimmy G, future Houston Texans. quarterback. Man, that is going to be tough.
He gets the Trent Dilfer treatment where
that
they go straight to Gerbach after him.
Tough to watch,
legend,
man.
Elvis Gerbach.
Brutal. Anyways, this was the PFF forecast. We thank you guys for tuning in. If you turned into the watch along as well, you guys are rock stars. We will, of course, be back next week. We'll figure out when and where and how we're going to do that podcast. But we'll be back on Wednesday evening, of course, with the midweek podcast breakdown of both games. In between, go to pff.com, check out all the good shit there. Love y'all. Peace.